Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the King of the Nerds UK vlog. Yes, said vlog that time, got it right. Don't know why I kept saying vlog, to be honest with you. I think deep down, I knew it was wrong. I just didn't want to admit it. This week's episode is sponsored by my Peaky Blinders hat. Feel free to get your Peaky Blinders hats now from Dan's genuinely run out of nerdy hats to wear on his head, so now he's just wearing hats connected to television shows. As you may have noticed, the board has been restructured. Ooh. Because I didn't want to lose the board, but it did seem slightly redundant now that teams were gone. So I've separated it into the two categories of the final five and the very dramatic The Fallen. I've got a lot of free time. Now, on to episode 7 of King of the Nerds UK. This episode was called Bad Nerds and Broomsticks. It was a task that required precision and hand-eye coordination. Uh-oh. As it's not possible to acquire good hand-eye coordination in the space of the 2 hours they're usually given to practice for a Nerd War, this week it basically, they were given lots of things to do target practice with, and it very quickly devolved into a water balloon fight, in which I'm pretty sure the only thing the contestants learned was it's all fun and games until Kenny gets hit in the nuts with a water balloon. There was a really weird element to it this week, in that there was a quiz part of this task, which I suppose evened it more, because you could basically gain an advantage in the sort of part that needed hand-eye coordination and precision if you answered questions right, which felt more true to the show. And that's great. I'm all up for that. Please even the playing field for those of the nerds who don't do so well when it comes to physical activity of any sort. That's great. I'm all up for that. Except for the quiz didn't end up necessarily requiring skill. I mean, they set it up that some of these questions are sort of 50-50 questions that you might not necessarily know the answer to. How they did it, I mean, these are the weirdest quiz questions I've ever heard. They brought out the two actors that played the Weasley twins in the Harry Potter films. It's a Harry Potter related task. It makes a certain amount of sense to bring them in. And then they proceeded to ask the oddest questions, as I said, of all time in a quiz. Like, which twin was born first? Which twin has the best golf handicap? I mean, these are things you just couldn't know. So, I mean, yeah, there was an element of luck to that. I mean, if you're going to do it that way, just flip a coin. Flip a coin, yes, heads you win, tails you lose. I mean, it might as well have done. I mean, it was kind of fun. There were definitely some fun and awkward moments, like Emily sort of admitting that she used to fancy the twins. And her face when she asked them to demonstrate their golf swing was very mischievous. We're on to you, Emily. Unfortunately, in the end, genuinely, the quiz played very little into the actual results, because the most coordinated person in Kenny won, and the least coordinated person of the group in Matt lost, proving that the quiz part of it was absolute waste of time. Sorry. The loser of this task goes into the Nerd-Off, and the winner of this task gets to select who they go against. So because it was Kenny and Matt who were quite friendly, I mean, Matt sort of tried to manipulate things to his advantage again. Now, this is one of those weird things. There's two instances in this sort of version, this vlog, where Matt's going to prove me wrong for something I've said in the past. This is the first of those, and I'll get to why that is in a moment. But basically, Matt felt that Curtis was was the person he could beat of the remaining ones. He didn't want to go up against Mark. I don't think he would have go up against Emily. He felt that of the three people he could be in the Nerd-Off against, Curtis was his best bet to go to the final. Now, you may remember that in previous weeks I've talked about, that was mental, because he's tried that before. He's tried to get himself in a Nerd-Off with Curtis over other people before, and I thought it was crazy. Curtis has coached 5 people to victory in Nerd-Offs. He's clearly very much a sleeper. I've been describing him as the sleeper and doing this, whatever this movement is, since one of the first episodes of this vlog. But he proved me wrong, because turns out he was not wrong at all. He was perfectly capable of taking out Curtis. But sadly, the Pen of Doom returns. We lost Curtis, and I'm super sad about that. I mean, I know that, like, there's one episode left, and it's not like, he'll be back in the last one. They usually bring back all the contestants. Curtis is one of my absolute favourites and a true contender to boot, in my opinion. I think he deserved to be in the final. I'm not sure who you'd remove to put him in the final. These are all also strong contenders, but I do feel like he deserved to be there. So it's a shame. It's sad to see him go for that reason, for sure. My favourite moment in this week's episode was Curtis going down the zip line, getting to the bottom, and just sort of hanging there, waiting for someone to let him down, while Connie and the Weasley twins sort of poked holes in his strategy. Just insult to injury, really. I mean, he looked quite silly, just sort of hanging there, waiting for something to sort of happen, waiting for someone, I assume, to come in and unharness him. And you could clearly see, Connie, I don't know if that's just editing or what, but it looked kind of ridiculous. They were valid criticisms, but it was just a funny image, because it was just like, you boy, for your failures, you must hang there while we mock you. Episode 8 started with a bang, straight into a quiz that would eliminate 2 of our final 4, leaving us with our final 2, obviously. So the way the quiz worked is they would ask a question, they would all answer the question simultaneously. First person to 5 points, the first 2 people, I should say, to 5 points, goes to the finale, and the other 2 are eliminated. Straight away, Matt, not straight away, very, quickly enough, Matt reaches his 5 points, leaving, guaranteeing him a place in the finale, but leaving Mark, Kenny, and Emily on even footing. Then there was a question in which Mark and Kenny got right that Emily didn't, which pushed them both to 5 points, meaning that one of them was going to be in the final, using a tiebreaker question, but that eliminated Emily. Not messing around in episode 8, straight away, someone just gone. Emily as well, I mean, she doesn't come across initially nerdy, so you sort of doubt her nerd credentials, and it's not, I don't mean that to be, I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just, some people come across almost too socially sort of normal and you think, I don't know if you're nerdy enough for this show, man. You might get eliminated early, and it is a mean thing to think, really, because it's, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover as such. But she's slowly but surely just impressed the shit out of me. Like literally every week, she's either achieved something or done something on the show that's made me go, well, don't I look foolish? Ye shall be missed, Emily. Well, for the 30 minutes of the show that actually remain. Anyway, so what we're left with is a situation where Matt is guaranteed through to the final, and we are left with Kenny and Mark, who are facing a tiebreaker question to decide who goes to the final and who is eliminated. Fascinating here is the way they edited it, because Connie reads the question, she reads the 4 possible answers, and they immediately cut to a sort of talking head of Mark, and he goes, I know this one. I actually know this one. And then it cuts back, and they're trying to build tension as they sort of shuffle through their cards to choose their answers. They show their answers. They're looking nervous. Connie's looking nervous. There's a big pause, and she says the answer is, and it cuts back to Mark, and he goes, I'm going to the finale. And he looks really genuinely emotional and pleased about it. And I'm going, they haven't revealed that yet. I mean, I know that you're sort of saying, like, in my head, that's what I was thinking, but genuinely, that takes all the tension out of it, because I'm going, okay, yeah, he seems like he knows. I mean, he's got a different answer to Kenny, so there's no way they're both getting the point here. He seems genuinely sure of himself. Mark's going to the, like, why still try to build up? I don't mind if the way, structuring it that way, but don't waste my time with the long pause before revealing the answer. Also, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't reveal it and still expect it to be a surprise. Do you know what I mean? You can't do both, one or the other. Either don't show Mark admitting he knew the answer the whole way through for sure and that he was completely confident, or don't show the build-up tension. One or the other. You can pick. Especially because they cut like a big chunk of this finale out. I'll get to that in a minute. So what that means is that Mark is going to the sort of final challenge, whatever you want to call it, versus Matt, and Kenny, Chaos Kenny, is eliminated. I did enjoy having Kenny in the competition. While I didn't agree with his tactics, as I've already sort of mentioned, or no, it's not that I don't agree with his tactics. You're never going to endear yourself to me with those tactics, is the way I would phrase it. But they were massively entertaining. Kenny's entertainment factor in the house was off the chart, so he will be missed for that reason alone. I mean, the episode before when he was distracting Mark and Curtis by dancing, that is some impressive. Throwing a paper airplane at them, unplugging their laptop, like just Chaos Kenny in full force, or earlier in the season when he distracted the other team by wearing a cockroach costume and sort of snuck in to sort of spy on what they were doing. Amazing. Like, Kenny's responsible for so many of my favourite moments of the series. So, certainly he'd proven himself to be... I mean, his tactics for getting here were very clever, actually, which is just to never reveal what you're good and not good at. That's what got him this far, in my opinion, because people kept underestimating his knowledge in areas. His music knowledge he kept secret, and that became a factor. He kept his maths sort of knowledge secret, that became a factor. You know, keeping your sort of skill set on the D-low in this show actually turned out to be a really good tactic. So Kenny was a true blue player. Massively respect what he achieved, and again, sad to see anyone eliminated at this stage. So like the US version of the show, they brought back all of the other nerds to spend one last night at Nerdvana, and then the next day they would pledge allegiance to one of the two of the remaining nerds and would be allowed to assist them in the first 2 rounds of the sort of final challenge. Kenny tried to use some stirring techniques to get Curtis on side. It backfired massively because Curtis completely turned on Kenny and he really tore into him. I was so pleased. I think I tweeted at him because I was just like, you go girl. Like, it was an amazing moment. He really told him off, and that's like, it made my day. Because it was completely unnecessary behaviour, and if anything it solidified Curtis's choice of being on Team Mark, so it completely backfired. I thought he showed great moral fibre. Not sure what that means. He made some really good choices and he ate bran flakes. I don't know. You might remember that a few minutes ago I mentioned that there were 2 points in this week's sort of double bill where Matt proved me wrong. This is the second one. Earlier in this vlog, I had talked about how Matt's tactics potentially may be his own downfall if he reaches the finale, because what would end up happening was it would get to the part where it required other nerds to sort of stand in your favour, pledge their allegiance to you, and he may have alienated many of them, and that might be a problem. Turns out that was nonsense, and when it came down to it, there were more people by 1 on Matt's side than Mark's. That was a surprise to me, I'll be honest with you. I figured he'd have just alienated enough people with his tactics, but only 1 or 2 really could have been picked out, and they would have gone Team Mark anyway. So ultimately, Matt played a really smart game, and there he is in the final for a damn good reason. So yeah, that's me proved wrong, basically. One prediction I'm pleased I got right, though, is in like episode, I think 1 of this vlog, or maybe 2, I pointed out that Matt Mark would be a very likely or good finale. I think I said it would be a likely finale. Maybe I just said it would be a good one. Either way, I was pleased. That's what we got. I do want to also congratulate them on sort of how well they presented Matt and Mark as valid candidates for, you know, being the winner. Mark for just being sort of this constant force of sort of confidence and sort of cheeriness, but ultimately, you know, they made it clear that he had issues. You know, he didn't feel as confident as he came across, basically, and that came out in moments throughout the whole series, but they really brought it together well here. There was like the moment when he couldn't believe he'd gotten into the final 5 and he was a bit teary-eyed, proving that like as much confidence as Mark exudes generally, you know, in reality he doesn't have the self-confidence that he portrays himself to have, and that's actually very nerd. It's very human. It's a very endearing quality in a person. You know, I think that, you know, being humble is important, and I think that Mark is deeper down. I obviously on the surface he's, you know, bold and brash, and he's outspoken, and he's you know, very much socially sort of out there, but like it's clear that that's, I wouldn't say a facade, I think that's very much him, but I think that underneath there is also the same sort of self-doubts everyone feels, and that made him very relatable, and I think the credit to the show's makers and editors for making that apparent. And Matt was another one. So this actually surprised me because I didn't really think of it this way, but when Matt came to the show, he was very antisocial. He didn't like people. He came to play a game. He didn't care who he burned, and I think he made friends. And isn't that a brilliant story? You know, a true sort of, that's a true nerd story. You know, someone who, you know, was a little antisocial, didn't necessarily, you know, get on with a lot of people, felt a little bit like an outcast, came to this place where he met other nerds, other people like him with his sort of, his mindset maybe, his, you know, just kindred spirits, as it were, and that's a really sweet story too, because he said something really sweet, which is that he'd come in wanting to play a game, and he'd left with friends, like actual friends for life, and that was a really sweet moment for me. And I think the show did a really good job making me feel like both Mark and Matt were very, very worthy candidates for both this head-to-head finale and just winning the show altogether, which meant going into the finale I would not have been upset to see either of them win. So the actual finale itself was, I forget the name they give for it, the Nerd Eliminator maybe? I can't remember. Basically, it's a best of 4 game where they bring out different sort of head-to-head games, and you get a point if you win it, and then they go on to the next head-to-head game, and the first person of 4 wins. The first game was really interesting, actually, because the first game was like a sort of memory thing. You had to fill in a board of all the different Game of Thrones Stark family members, and they could call upon help from other nerds. Matt asked Yasmin to help. Mark asked Karen, both gaming nerds aficionados. Mark lost this one just through two reasons. One, him and Karen just didn't know enough about Game of Thrones. Bob Stark, not a Stark. Daddy Stark, also not a Stark. You put the name Stark after a thing. So they would have lost that task regardless. But then Matt made a silly mistake about, I think there was some confusion to do with the rules. And he called out Hodor before having a complete board, which automatically gave the victory to Matt anyway. But it didn't really matter, because even if he hadn't done that, Matt still would have won. He had the most. So that was 1 point to Matt. Then it came to some stuff that they sort of skipped past, which is what I was talking about earlier, about how they spent a lot of time building up tension in those questions in the earlier quiz that they didn't necessarily need to, because they sort of gave away who got it right. That time they could have used here, because we skimmed through the next couple of tasks. There was a Sudoku in which also Matt won 2-0. There was a logic puzzle to do with some sort of science-based logic puzzle. They skimmed over what it actually was. That's how quickly they skimmed over it. And I'm going to do the same in this video. Matt also won that. So it was 3-0 basically to Matt, pretty much immediately. One game won, and it was all over. So then it goes to a quiz, which of course Mark was very happy about, and it was an amazing quiz. The only thing I can assume here is that Mark is psychic. He was answering questions before they were uttered. That's fastest hands in the West. What do you want to say? Fastest hands in Nirvana, as he phrased it. 3-1 in favour of Matt. Next game, if Matt won it, all over. And at this point, I'm genuinely thinking, do I smell a comeback? Nope. It's 5 minutes of the show left. No comeback here. And I was not wrong. Basically, what happened was there was a speed chess game, and they had very different strategies. Now, a lot of people in the talking heads, there are people criticising Mark's strategy. Mark felt that he was going to take his time and think and not rush his moves and hope that Matt made a mistake and he would take his king before his time ran out. So he thought through his moves. He would look at the board, he would be thinking, then he would make the move and hit the thing. And it was perfectly sound logic, just didn't work this time. Sadly, we lost Mark, who I've talked about why I like Mark a lot in these videos, so I don't feel the need to sort of reiterate that. But that means we got to crown our king, which was Matt. Yay! It's only taken 8 weeks. Not bad, really. I want to point out as well that I've put these in alphabetical order on both sides of the board, and I realised that the last 5 got eliminated alphabetically. Curtis, Emily, Kenny, Mark and Matt. Don't know how that happened. Coincidence, obviously, but I just found that really odd. When I actually put the board up and I looked at it and I realised who I'd have to mark off at which points, I was quite surprised. So that's that. Matt's king. Totally deserved, true contender. I've talked about why I like Matt as well in this particular piece before I talked about the actual finale and how it played out. All of that, still true. 2-3 minutes later. I just want to point out as well, though, favourite moment from the final episode absolutely was Matt inadvertently propositioning Robin with his phrasing. Just brilliantly awkward, true nerd moment. I'm going to let you enjoy that clip for all its glory now.
Captain, oh captain, I want to pledge my allegiance to Matt.
Obviously I picked you first and I wanted to go all the way with you. That didn't happen. Wait a minute. Yes, but I wanted to go through the game with you. But
The best. The best. So it's fitting, I feel, that the favourite moment of the final episode was our king, Matt. Hopefully there's a second series. We've just found out that there's not going to be a fourth series of the US version of the show. That's very sad. Hopefully Sky felt that this made enough money to justify making another. But yeah, so we've crowned our king. That's the end of my vlogs. I will be doing more vlogs shortly, but I'm going to reformat them so they're not as rambly. I'm going to give me a focus, because what tends to happen here is I end up recapping the content of the episode as well as my thoughts, and that ends up making them really long. Sorry about that for those of you who've sat through these. But yeah, so the new format I'm going to use for future vlogs is going to be different. Ooh, different. But this is the last you'll see of the board and my silly hats. Oh, I still wear silly hats every now and then. Or a fez, or a hat with a propeller on it. Or a hat that looks like a dragon. I have all of those hats. Genuinely own all of those hats. That's why I suggested them. I'll save them for series 2. There you go, Sky. There's a reason to renew the show. Renew the show. We'll get a series. You know, you'll get to see my silly hats. My silly dragon hat. I'll give you a preview. There you go. Silly dragon hat. You'll see more of that if you renew the show. So that is everything for this vlog. Hopefully I'll see you soon for more videos on this channel anyway, but if not, we'll see you hopefully in a year's time for more King of the Nerds vlogs. Sorry if you heard banging in this video, by the way. They're doing some sort of construction. I can hear it, and I don't know if the mic's picking it up, and I'm really not going to bother filming it twice, so that was it then. There it is. Yep. It's the soundtrack to my vlog. Just random banging. I'm fairly sure they're not actually doing any construction work. I think they're just hitting things. I think these are just people pretending to do work, and they're making a lot of noise to prove they're doing it. Yeah, boss, doing that thing. Yep, oh, can you not hear how much noise this is making? Definitely doing a thing. Yep. It's real impressive. He's out of earshot. This bit got out of hand, didn't it? Started as a comment about the sound, and then it became a skit. Banging over my apology. Just banging straight over it. Don't give a shit, do you? Who are these people?